everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. Here we
Here we are. They heard you, Don.
welcome me to our March meeting. We start our meetings off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a pair of two sisters from Prince Street. Will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So don't sit down so quickly. You don't get away that quickly. I'd like to introduce to everyone Lindsay Ford, who's in the 2nd grade at Prince Street, and her big sister Morgan Ford, who's in the 4th grade at Prince Street. And you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for coming together and leading us. So would you introduce your mom and your administrators who are with you today?
My mother's name is Kimberly Ford. And she's an okay mother.
And then your administrators.
Our principal is Mr. Miller, and our vice principal is Miss Waters.
Very good. Thank you. And I'm particularly excited that the Ford sisters are with us today from Prince Street. You will notice that they have on special T-shirts tonight. So, Morgan, if you'll tell us a little bit about your T-shirts and what you're doing at Prince Street, we'd love to hear that.
So at Prince Street, our school basically started new houses with 5 different houses in Prince Street. So basically these houses were basically one big family, and there's Debrari, Valatia, Kuamba, Guhera, and Kuliana.
Okay, and what does Kuliana
represents responsibility.
Okay. And Kuhera? What does Kuhera?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Very good. Very good. Well, several of us were there for your celebration not too long ago, and it's an amazing thing what you're doing at Prince Street. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I have 4 you certificates. Morgan. And for Lindsay. And pencils and a flag for each one of you for doing this. And I think Mr. Butler wants to take our picture. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
I got one question for you. Are you going to be field hockey players like your older sister?
Not sure.
Not sure.
She's working on it.
Okay.
The other question is, do you get along that well together at home like you did this?
Thank you again.
Yes, thank you for being here.
3.2 on our agenda is approval of our agenda. I need a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion, second, and discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say. .3 Again, this month we've lost one of our family. Mr. Cummins was a retired guidance counselor and teacher at James and Bennett High School. I had an opportunity to deal with him when my daughters were going to Bennett. And I know the superintendent sitting here.
Yes, he was a counselor at Bennett when I was a student there, and also worked on my staff when I was principal there.
So he's touched a lot of students in this county. So at this time, in your own way, I'd like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. Student reps. At the table tonight, I think we have from Parkside, Sarah Rouge. How are you? What's going on at Parkside?
I'm good. Hold on. Ashley's going to talk first.
She didn't want to sit next to you tonight. We would have put another chair over there.
All right.
How are you, Ashley?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good evening, board members, and happy St. Parksides Month. Yes, you heard me correctly, St. Parksides Month. This week, instead of St. Patrick's Day, we are making this green holiday all about our school spirit. This week, our school is taking on the Spring Spirit Week. Monday was No Mirror Monday, where students could roll out of bed looking like the Hot Mess Express. Today, we dress like tourists for Tourist Tuesday. Tomorrow, we will be doing Past and Future, where we will dress on how we would like to see ourselves in 10 years or how we used to. To finish off the week, we will embrace the green of St. Parksides Week in our school by dressing head and toe in green. Our legendary Ram Fan Pep Rally will be periods 6th and 7th, and we'll hope you guys show up in green.
Last week on March 6th, we had a delayed opening for the lucky juniors who got to take the SAT. These juniors got a free opportunity to become college and career ready by testing their knowledge. In other news, our AP testing registration closed last week and over 215 tests were registered. Our brilliant brainy math team tied for first at the Wicomico County Math Meet at Y-High on Thursday.
On March 14th at Dove Point, our junior-senior banquet will be held at 6 o'clock. This is the first goodbye for the seniors at Parkside to count down the days before they walk across the stage. The theme is luau, and we plan to get our Hawaii on. Speaking of goodbyes, prom is just around the corner, and we are planning our everything to perfection. Grand March, prom, and after prom will all be held at the Civic Center, and we will have a no-leave policy that once you leave prom or after prom, there will be no re-entry.
Now on to sports. The finale of winter sports came to an end with a boom. Girls basketball won Bayside South, and Jacqueline, or Jackie Wright, hit her 1,000th point in basketball as a sophomore last week against North Carolina. In wrestling, Eli Sellinger placed 4th at States. Starting March 1st, we are now moving on to spring sports and can't wait for this upcoming season. Girls lacrosse has a play day in Dover on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. From Mardella High School, Tiana State. What's going on in Mardella?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
All right, at Mardella. So, as you heard, we recently took the SAT. We got up bright and early. It was a great time. And I'm a junior, so I was up early. And then coming up, our high schoolers are going to festival for band. That's actually tomorrow, so we hope to do good. We've been preparing our pieces. Last night we had our winter sports banquet where we recognized our athletes for grades and achievements throughout the season. Speaking of the winter season, Eli Brown went to states and competed great, and Jaden Shelton, and Kyle Hubbard also went to states, with Jacob Shelton coming in 6th for the boys 55-meter and beating a school record that he set himself as well. The math team did great this season and looks forward to pushing on and taking out the other schools next year. For our winter pep rally, it was very interesting. Our step team performed, and as a surprise, some of our staff performed with them. And recently, we've had our talent show tryouts for our talent show that's going to be on April 18th. Coming up, our Honor Society is putting on the blood drive, and our SGA is hosting Pasta for Patients, where funds are going to go to leukemia research. And our famous Warriors Challenge is coming up, where students, staff, and alumni and parents will all compete against each other. And lastly, Corey Phillips and Michael Close on the robotics team have made it to nationals. And that's all that we're doing at Mardella right now.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
From Y High, Miss Gonzato.
Hello and good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Zitlali Cassiano, and I'm here on the behalf on Y High Student Government as the Secretary of SGA Executive Board. And this month has been a great and busy month for Y High students. Through hard work and determination, Y High students are making an impact in our community through athletics, academics, the arts, and volunteerism. It's a great way to be a part of the tribe. First, I want to start with our spring sports teams have just begun after a great end to our winter sports. With the boys basketball team win over Hartford Tech on Friday night, we're headed to the state semifinals at the University of Maryland, and we also had several players win Player of the Week for Delmarva now, and 2 of our basketball players got the milestone of 1,000 points scored in high school. Overall, it was a great season for many athletes and teams, and hopefully we get the state championship ring this weekend. Fingers crossed. And moving on to academics, our academic team did an incredible job at the competition hosted by Warwick Community College, and they took first place against all the teams on the Eastern Shore. Following the academics team win, the math team also did a great job winning last night's final math team competition, and for the second year in a row, the math team trophy will reside at Y High. And our clubs and honor societies also continue to make events that help the community and help build character. Our 2 Destination Imagination teams also performed well at the regional tournament this past weekend and are both headed to states at the end of the month. NHS members also served as hosts for the Tooth Fairy Follies fundraiser held at Dove Point, and the Language Honor Societies hosted a cultural meeting and had many students create dishes from different parts of the country, and everyone shared them. And then we have our inductions on March 27th, celebrating the new members of the National Honor Society, Science Honor Society, French Honor Society, and Math Honor Society. And our student government is also excited to start planning the Y High annual bingo that will be held this Saturday at the Moose Lodge. And students have been selling tickets, getting volunteers, getting donations to help us have a great bingo that'll help the community and kind of create a fun event. And our Spirit Weeks for the winter pep rally, the end of the winter season, and spring sports was also a success. We had days for Spirit Week. Our Monday was pajama day. Well, not pajama day. Lazy Monday. Twin. So everybody just wore pajamas. And then Tuesday was Twin Tuesday. And Wednesday was, I lost it. Sorry, it was on the back. Way back Wednesday, and then Blue and Gold Thursday, which was the day of our pep rally, which went really good. We had lots of fun, and we had a school, it was Family Feud, but it was Y High Feud. And Friday was the Mathlete versus Athlete Friday, which was fun to see different kind of perspective on what people thought an athlete and a mathlete was. And then lastly, we're looking forward to continuing the year with a greater drive and even more success in all the areas for which Y High students shine. I would also like to thank our teachers and staff and administration for allowing us to show our full potential and shine in all these activities that they allow us to do. And I would also like to thank you guys for giving me the time to express how proud we are of our school. Thank you.
Thank you. James and Bennett. Excuse me. I don't have a name, so you have to introduce yourself when you sit down.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Henley, President Mr. Fitzgerald, and board members. I'm Youngju Lee, and I'm the new Bennett Executive Board President, and I will be the new GMB representatives for the rest of a month.
Welcome.
Thank you. As everyone knows, Bennett's biggest activity was ended successfully. Our talented rock and roll singers, dancers, and musicians put all their efforts to make a performance as best as possible. Also, Bennett had a successful season for winter sports. Our athletes now are looking forward to their another successful seasons. And not only our students are enthusiastic in sports, but they also care for our community. This Thursday, SGA is running the Spring Blood Drive, and many students signed up to donate their blood. For the last few months, our SGA offices are focusing on the important activities. Our seniors are working on proms. Our juniors have been working for juniors and senior banquet, and our sophomores are executing breakfast dinner fundraisers in April. We hope to see all of you at the GMB cafeteria and support our sophomores. Moreover, thankful for our devoted teachers and administrators, SGA is organizing a luncheon for all GMB staffs. Our SGA officers, administrators, and staffs are working hard to make students to be strive in safe environment and make the last few months successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Appreciate it. 3.5, public comments. I don't have any. 3.6, superintendent's report. Dr. Hanlon.
Good evening. I have a few items to review with the board and the community this evening. I do want to start with an announcement. We all know that Mr. Bruce Ford is going to be retiring at the end of this year, and we will miss him greatly and his wealth of expertise. Knowing that that's coming, we have been we posted and we've interviewed and we have selected our next Chief Finance and Operations Officer, and I'm very pleased to announce that it's Mr. Micah Stauffer, the current Director of Secondary Education. Micah has a wealth of experience. This is his 21st year in education with Wicomico schools. He's served as not only director of secondary ed, but has been the principal of at least 3 schools, I believe. That's 2 schools, okay. Assistant principal as well, but has proven his leadership in all areas, including those areas of the Chief Finance and Operations Officer. He's about a year away from completing his doctorate, so we're very excited to have you join the senior leadership team, Micah. Congratulations. You're welcome. So next on my report this evening is a report from our Food Services Department, Mr. Gosley, and I believe is Ms. Snyder with you. There she is, over there. Oh, we have several. Good. Very recently, Mr. Ford was sharing with me in one of our one-on-one meetings some of the great things that are happening in food services, and I said, this sounds like would be a great report to the board. So I've asked them to share with you some of the great things that are going on in food services. So, Mr. Gosley.
Good evening, Dr. Hanlon, board members. We are proud to share some information that's going on in our Food and Nutrition Services Department. But I'd like to introduce my staff here. I have Monique Snyder, who is our Farms and Sales Manager, and new to the position, our Area Manager, Ms. Kimberly Dukes, who is her second week in the position. So we're throwing her to the fire today.
Yes. Welcome.
I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Yes. Welcome. Thank you.
And in addition to that, we have some staff in our office, Ms. Shirley Abbott, Meg Strobach, and our food service managers and staff. And then we have Ms. Debbie Smith in the back, who also is our finance department support person. So what we want to talk about tonight is we'll give you some updates to the board about our free and reduced meals program. Then I'll have Monique talk about farms and marketing and outreach. And Kim's going to talk about some farm to school programs and summer meals. And we have a nice treat for you afterwards, okay? So the first slide talks about where the state stands. This is all the state schools and their free and reduced meals percentage. And you see on the yellow highlight there where we stand, Wicomico stands at our free and reduced percentage. 60.27% of our students qualify for free or reduced meals. And the next slide talks about Wicomico. We've broken down each school's data, each school's free and reduced percentage. And I just want to highlight the ones that are in purple are schools that we have identified and participate in a program called CEP, which is Community Eligibility Provision. And basically that means because the school fits a certain economic status, we've been allowed to feed those students, all those students at the free rate. So all the students at these schools get breakfast and lunch at no charge to them. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Snyder to talk about some of the things that she's doing.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing us to be here to present before you. It's exciting what some of the things we're doing in this department, and I'm really eager to share with you. So let's begin with the Free and Reduced Meals program. This is a USDA program that provides nutritionally balanced meals to our students every day at low cost or free rate. And you know, this program is so very important because school meals are essential to the nutrition and the well-being of our students, and this program provides an even playing field to all of our students regardless of income, specifically our low-income students. Now, because we know this program is so very important, we are making it a priority to get out there and make this information available to those who may qualify. So you'll see above we have our online application. It's important to note that this application is in English and in Spanish, and we are working hard on the Haitian Creole version as well. We stay in constant communication with school-based staff during our critical application submission period, which is typically during the fall. And we want to make ourselves available to be at pre-registration events, school, back-to-school nights, and community events as well. Externally, we are partnering with agencies and community partners, specifically with our Department of Social Services, where we're working with them to make our farms information available to their clientele. So something that I've been doing over the past few weeks is speaking to our student body, getting their input on our meals and seeing what their opinions are. And let me tell you, they are not afraid to share it. But I think this is so important because I want their input on our meals, and I want their input to drive what we're doing so they become interested in what we have to offer. Now, something else we've been doing is food sampling. We sampled strawberry smoothies in February that students really enjoyed. We also sampled decaffeinated, I'll have to emphasize decaffeinated, coffee smoothies just last week, and you'll see pictured that's Why High. Those students enjoyed that sampling so much that they wanted to know exactly when it was going to be on the menu. So moving forward, this is something that we plan to do across the entire board throughout our whole entire district. So I understand that there is a stereotype of the mean lunch lady, and I am here to help usher that stereotype right out the door. So you'll see pictured, there's Elmo with some students at Pemberton Elementary. He visited them during National School Breakfast Week to make sure they were eating a healthy breakfast. We're planning on doing a junior and Iron Chef competition for grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8 in conjunction with our Fuel Up to Play 60 initiative. And below, you'll see one of our cafeteria managers, Benita, posing with a student. We did green eggs and ham for Dr. Seuss's birthday. So.
Okay, so tonight I would like to talk to you guys about some of the programs that we currently are doing and have been doing for years. I wanted to share with you some of our farm to school programs, and this is where we are reaching out to local farmers, and we are partnering with them to get our fresh fruit and our vegetables, and it creates like a buzz in the cafeteria when the kids come through and they see the corn on the cob on the menu, and even though they had decided to pack that day, they actually come through the line because they want to get that watermelon or they want to get those string beans. So it really is something great that we've been doing. Which button do I push? Okay, and then something else that we've been doing is always after school programs. And these programs are 100% free, and we have fed so far 19,577 meals this year alone. So it's such a great thing that we offer the kids after school. If they're staying for a club or a meet or something like that, they know that they can get supper that night for free. Another thing that we also do is summer feeding programs, and this is actually about the second week after we stop having school, and we go out to local communities. We go to playgrounds, we go to parks, and we actually last year we went to quite a few of them, but the one I wanted to talk about, this is actually Camden Gardens, and we went there last year, and I just want to say, I got the chance to actually help out there, and when you pull that truck up with the food, the kids come running to you like you're the ice cream truck. But you have healthy meals, and if you come for breakfast, they already want to know what's for lunch. And they're just so super excited, and they actually made us a thank you card thanking us for all the meals that we provided them this summer. And it was just so great. So a lot of programs that we do.
Okay, so we would like to end our portion of the presentation with some samples because we are food service. So the strawberry smoothies that we spoke about, we will be sampling tonight. Now, hopefully technology is our friend. We shot a promo with our cafeteria manager, Myra, at James and Bennett for the smoothies, and let's see if it works.
Next week, March 4th through the 8th, and get your strawberry smoothie. You definitely want to try this. We know 725 is working, but something this good.
I like it.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanlon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, board members. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, where are the smoothies? Yeah,
they're on the way.
They're coming.
Oh, you were serious? Very good. I thought you were just joking.
I have a question, Dr. Hanlon.
Yes, sir.
Do they really have students line up for green beans?
It sounds like it. That's what I was wondering.
When they're local and fresh.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is a treat.
You guys do an amazing job, and with the 60% free and reduced meals, I always wonder, what do they do on weekends, what do they do in the summers, and you guys are filling that need. I think that's just amazing.
Thank you.
And I so appreciate what you guys do.
The best way we can, and if we could do it 7 days a week,
You would.
Well,
that's
I
what makes
do
you
my
guys
best.
special.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And for our students, if we didn't try them. And this is a blenderless smoothie. And we're working on funding from the Dairy Association to actually have blenders where we'll be adding more smoothies with vegetables and all that good stuff.
Very good.
The sheriff looks like he might need one.
Mr. Gosley, can we have the recipe?
I think it's a secret.
Very simple. That is a blend of a smoothie. It's strawberry puree, pineapple juice, and yogurt.
Plain regular yogurt or Greek?
Regular yogurt.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you again
Thank you.
for being here tonight and for
Appreciate it.
presenting all the great things that are happening in food services. Yep. And welcome to the staff.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. Okay, next, as part of my report while you're enjoying your smoothies, I want to just give you a little bit of a glimpse. I sent this to board members in the update last week, and I don't know how large you can make this, but we're really keeping our eye on the legislation that was introduced in Annapolis called the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. It is the bridge to Kerwin. So this is not the actual legislation that will put the funding mechanisms in place that will replace Thornton, but it's the bridge to Kerwin in an effort to jumpstart, if you will, some of the initiatives, some of the recommendations that came with the policies for Kerwin. And based upon this legislation that's been introduced, Mr. Ford has worked with his staff on determining what we could potentially gain in Wicomico County over the course of the next 2 years should this legislation pass. So I wanted to just go down very quickly with you and for the community to get an idea of what we could potentially gain based upon this legislation if it passes. The first, so if you go down the column under Wicomico share for FY20, you'll see what I said, what we potentially will gain from this legislation. The first area is what they call the concentration of poverty grants. And these are grants that are provided to public schools across the state where they have at least 80% of their students eligible for free and reduced meals. That's based upon data from the 2016-17 school year, and we have 5 of those schools. They're elementary schools, and each one of those schools would receive $248,000, just over $248,000 to implement this concentration on poverty grant. The next area is the pre-K grants at 100%. Now this is pretty exciting, especially knowing that we have this emphasis on implementing universal pre-kindergarten. So these grants, and they are grants, we would have to apply for them, but basically we would qualify based upon what we know. It's state funding to each LEA, each local education agency, based upon every 4-year-old in full-day pre-kindergarten as of September 30th for each year, regardless of whether it's full-day services, whether or not there's full-day services for all students in the county. So it's for all of our full-time, full-day 4-year-olds as of September 30th we would receive funding for. And so calculating based upon our pre-K enrollment, we would get a little over $2 million in that area, again, from the state. The next area you see a lot of question marks because there isn't any funding tied to it yet. This is teacher prep collaboration. We would have to apply, and school systems across the state will be encouraged to apply in collaboration with higher education. For instance, we may want to work with UMES or Salisbury University or even Warwick on a teacher prep collaboration where we're working to prepare teachers, to prepare candidates for teaching, according to some of the recommendations of Kerwin. Moving down, you see the teacher salary grant. This is, and I want to make sure I'm speaking correctly, so if a local board provides a negotiated and funded average salary increase for teachers of at least 3% in FY20, then this funding would become available. We would apply as of June 30th, July 1st, in proving that we have funded through negotiations on average a 3% increase in our teacher's salary. And this match would become available to us. $1.8 million, which is a little over 1.5%. 1.5%. So again, from the state. The next area is mental health service coordinator. Each county system would receive funding to hire a mental health service coordinator. The next area is special ed grants. You see how large that amount is. Much needed funding to support special education program. I see Mrs. Walston nodding vigorously. As we all know, those supports that are needed for students in special education are vast, and what we get through federal and state funds doesn't cover what we need. So we're really very excited about the possibility of those additional funds to serve our special education students. Struggling Learners Grant, again, this has to do with meeting the needs of some of our students in kindergarten through grade 3 to the tune of $680,000. Talks a lot about tutoring programs to support students who are not on grade level. And so you see the total at the bottom of, should this legislation pass, for FY20 and again in FY21, a little over $9 million that would come to Wicomico County from the state. One of the things that we emphasized, we've met and discussed this with Mr. Culver and his staff, County Executive Culver, and have shared with him that a very important part of the legislation is that funding that is provided above maintenance of effort in FY20 would count towards the county's contribution to funding the Kerwin legislation. So they would get credit in FY20 for whatever that legislation would look like at a later date. So definitely something to keep our eye on. That would be a great support to us locally for the next couple of years, while we wait to see what the ultimate recommendations are for the funding for Kerwin. Mr. Ford, did I miss anything that you'd like to add, Jesse? Mr. Reed, right there? Okay. Questions from the board members on that? Okay. Very good. Just a reminder to the board members and to the community that we had missed 2 snow days. Those snow days are both added at the end of the school year, June 13th and 14th. Thank you. And we're all holding our breath, but that's it. And we have our Extra Mile Awards with Mr. Butler.
This month we have 2 very special Extra Mile Awards. These folks not only do well in the school, but they do so much in the community as well. Our first one is Amanda Alt. She's an English teacher at Y High. She goes above and beyond every day for the students and deserves to be recognized for her untiring commitment and dedication. Now, Mrs. Alt has taken on a leadership role running the Y High Food Pantry. Throughout the week on her planning time between many class periods and after school, you can find her endlessly working on organizing the food pantry closet, receiving new shipments and unpacking them so the pantry is stocked for distribution day. Now, every Friday, she orchestrates the food pantry volunteers, the students coming for food, all while managing her classes. Truly a remarkable feat. Now, we have so many students at Y High who count on the food pantry, and she always assures them that they can count on the food pantry being open. And if that is not enough, she also leads an enrichment activity in our after-school program called You Matter. She heads up the Y High yearbook and organizes activities with the school's faith-based partner. And for all that, we want to recognize Amanda Alt from Wicomico High School as an Extra Mile Award recipient. Come on down. We have some parting gifts for you. So we have a plaque, and we also have a certificate, and I'm going to take your picture with Dr. Hanlon and Mr. Fitzgerald. Thank you, Mrs. Alt. And thank you, Mr. Alt, for allowing us to have her tonight. Our next Extra Mile Award winner is Nancy Tinsmith. Now, apparently they call her Fancy Nancy at Pemberton Elementary School. Is that true? Okay. She's continually going above and beyond for the school, students, and staff. Now, in addition to being an instructional assistant, Nancy is Pemberton's Social Committee chairperson, continually promoting positive staff morale by organizing things such as Sweet Treat Days, to Super Bowl Luncheon, to Baked Potato Day, and to February's Secret Pal. Now, Nancy selflessly gives her time. She organized a kindness project in which each of Pemberton's classes have made a fleece blanket to pass out in the community. Some other things she's done in the past, just to mention, organizing a food drive for needy families, Pemberton's Winter Holiday Shop, where students use their dojo points to buy gifts and supplies for families in need. And for all that, Nancy Tinsmith, come on down as the Extra Mile Award for February. And Miss Eiler, you come on up too. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Butler, and congratulations to our winners. Thank you for all that you do. And finally, we have our grants report. Dr. Briggs.
You may recall last month we did a little something different with the grants report, and it was well received, so we'll run that back again this month. So for this month's grant presentation, we have another special guest who will be sharing some information about how we are utilizing one of our recently awarded grants to benefit our students. As she makes her way down to the table, I want to share that the grant report for the month of February is available in board docs and shows that during the past month we received funding for 3 additional grants, 2 from MSDE and 1 from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. In total, the 3 grants provide over $428,000 for our school system. At this time, I'd like to introduce our special guest with us this evening. We have Ms. Laura Bounds, our school program coordinator, who will be sharing about how we are utilizing one of our recent grants from MSDE.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm always excited to talk about additional opportunities for our kids after school and during the summer. So Wicomico County received funding from the Maryland State Department of Education through the out-of-school time LEAP proposal, requiring services to be given to schools with an 80% or higher farm rate. Our program, which will be called STARS LEAP, it stands for Students Targeting Arts and Reading Success, will receive approximately $330,000 each year for 3 years for both after-school and summer programs. The STARS LEAP and Summer LEAP project will address the achievement gap between farm African American ELL eligible students and those in need of additional academic support by increasing language and literacy skills through implementation of literacy and arts project-based learning, guided and shared reading, structured homework help, family engagement tools, and community partner enrichment. We're also able to provide all of our students a free meal through the At-Risk Supper program and free transportation directly home. The project will utilize a collaborative for teaching and artful reading curriculum, lit art literacy curriculum, right brain books, and teacher-written lessons to blend literacy and arts national standards. Community partners to support this endeavor include the Salisbury Art Space, Wicomico County Public Libraries, Right Brain Books, Young Audiences of Maryland, and Salisbury University. We plan to serve approximately 160 students after school, including first grade at Chipman, first and second grade at Prince Street, and third and fourth grade at East Salisbury Elementary School, as well as 100 students in the summer. During the afternoon, that's going to coincide with the Prince Street LLI program. Currently, there are actually no after-school programs for first and second grade students, so we are very excited to help fill that gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the only other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm not going to steal the thunder of board members who were there today, But I do want to just commend Jamie Hayes and her staff from Junior Achievement for an amazing event today at the Civic Center. So many community partners came out to work with our 8th graders, all over 1,000 of them, who had an opportunity for hands-on experiences in multitudes of careers. So I can't wait to hear from the staff of all of our middle schools what students came back talking about. But it was a great event, and Jamie Hayes and her staff did a great job. So that concludes my report. Sorry, it was a little long.
That's all right. That's all right. Moving on, 4.1. Everyone said it's approval of the open session minutes. Regular meeting on February the 12th. Work session on February the 14th. Work session on February the 19th. And work session on February the 26th. Everyone's had the opportunity to look at all the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
I got a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Again, say thank you. Now we go to consent items 5.1 through 5.9. Everyone's had the opportunity to go over these. Any questions? I entertain a motion.
So move.
Got a motion and a second. Now we have discussion. The only one that, and I'm jumping ahead, but the only question I had, and I think Dr. Hanlon answered it earlier, was on the bus contract price. I don't want people to think we're going to have a bus just sitting. This is just to use the contract if we need to have one. We got a contract to go to. So it was confusing, but I had the question answered, so that's the only question I had. Any other questions for the consent items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Again, say thank you. 6.1. Upon the superintendent's recommendation, is there a motion to approve the proposed consolidated current expense budget for year 2019-2020 as hereby presented?
Move to approve.
I got a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Jesse, welcome again.
Good evening.
So I'll kick it off this time. I know you're used to kicking it right to him, but the document that you have in front of you represents months and months, many, many long hours by our finance staff, all of us really who have worked together to develop this budget and you all included in work sessions to come up with what we hope is our final approved budget. I just want to emphasize again, as you see from what you see on the screen, that it is well aligned and designed based upon the resources that we believe we need to implement the next iteration of Imagine 2022, where we're emphasizing those 3 strategic priorities of students entering kindergarten ready to learn, increasing our graduation rate with a real focus this year on the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students and our English language learner population, and recruiting and retaining a high-performing workforce. And then, of course, the 4th priority, which are those mandated costs to open our doors. So I just want to thank Mr. Ford and his team for all of your diligence in pulling this document together.
Thank you.
Jesse.
Good evening, Chairman Fitzgerald, Dr. Hanlon, board members. Dr. Hanlon touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to reiterate, as the board knows and as I'll now share with the community, there's a long budget process that's involved in the creation of this document. It begins in August when the board adopts the budget calendar, and that calendar becomes the framework through which staff and the board operate in developing, compiling, and reviewing all the requests that come in from department managers and principals. All budget requests were reviewed with staff and the board over the last several months through meetings and open work sessions, and this document is the culmination of all of those tough decisions as to which request to put forth. If approved tonight as presented, this document will be posted to the board's website on our transparency portal first thing tomorrow morning, and I will take it down to the county sometime before the 15th of March. I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight a couple things in the budget document, but before I do, I'd like to thank our budget manager, Donna Russitano, for compiling all this information. She did a great job of making sure we completed all the tasks in a timely manner as outlined on the budget calendar. So I'd like to briefly go through a few key items for the benefit of the board and the community so that everyone knows where to look for these items. And I'd like to begin on page 57, which is actually page 59 on the PDF. That's it. That'll work. Thank you. So as you can see, this page shows our projected general fund revenue for the current fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year 2020. And as you can see in the first line, we are requesting $46.15 million from the county for fiscal year 2020. This amount represents $800,000 above maintenance of effort in order to balance the budget and fund Dr. Hanlon's vision for FY 2020. And for the public, maintenance of effort is the minimum amount that the county is legally required to fund the school system according to the Annotated Code of Maryland. This request represents an increase of $1.987 million, or 4.5% over the previous year. Our other local revenue, the line just below that, it increased slightly from $539,000 to $602,000, or an increase of $63,000, and that brings our total new local revenue to $2.05 million. Can you scroll over just a little bit to the right? Perfect, thank you. Our state revenue, which is also based on formulas according to state law, reflects an increase of $6.01 million, or 4.1%. Our other revenue remains virtually unchanged. If you can scroll down just a little bit. Virtually unchanged at $1.46 million compared to $1.423 million last year, a change of only $37,000. And our fund balance, our prior year fund balance, again, only decreased by about $100,000. The net effect of all these items bring us to our total projected revenue for FY20 in the amount of $202.8 million, which is an increase of $7,990,000 million over the previous fiscal year. And please keep that number in mind because we're going to come back to it later in the presentation. And does anyone have any questions on the revenue before we move on? Okay. I'd next like to take a look at the new requests that comprise Dr. Hanlon's 3 priorities, which begin on page 65, which is again 67 in the PDF. I think that was it. Yep, thank you. So, as she mentioned earlier, this budget represents the 3 strategic priorities that were outlined in her State of the Schools report to the community. The first priority, to increase the number of students ready to enter kindergarten, includes 3 full-time equivalent positions and supplies in the amount of $35,000 for a total of $235,000 for priority 1. Priority 2, which is right below that, social, emotional, and behavioral support and support for English language learners, includes 17 full-time equivalent positions and includes additional teachers for our expanding Next Gen program, English for speakers of other languages, or ESOL teachers, guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists, an additional school resource officer, and a mental health coordinator. And the total amount for priority 2 is $1.319 million. On the next page, priority 3, to recruit and retain a highly qualified workforce, which totals a little over $6 million. $6,032,000. This request represents the board increase in health insurance for fiscal year 2020, as well as the amounts needed to fund the negotiated agreements with our unions per the parameters that were set by the board. And as you can see, the total of Dr. Hanlon's 3 strategic priorities comes to $7.586 million. The last priority 4 on the next page. As she mentioned, this represents the mandatory cost of doing business. It's essentially the cost just to open the doors next year if nothing else changed. It's to fund things such as increases in insurance other than health insurance, increase in pension fees, and the projected increase in utilities based on past usage and future projections. And this amount totals $2.594 million. And finally, on the next page, we have our proposed budget reductions. Every year we ask our department managers to sharpen their pencils and see if they can find ways to save money within their own budgets. This allows us to use these funds in other areas, in this case specifically for Dr. Hanlon's 3 strategic priorities. And we were able to find reductions in the amount of $2.19 million that could be used to help fund the budget. So the total of the 4 priorities that we just went over, netted against these budget reductions, comes to $7,999,000, or the exact amount that we're projecting in revenue increase. That creates a balanced budget for fiscal year 2020, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Don, I guess for the public's information that we had hundreds and hundreds of questions for Jesse during this process.
Right.
So we're just not sitting here like we don't have any questions about what's going
thank
on.
you.
I can definitely vouch for that.
Thank you for
Good
pointing
point.
that out. Yep.
There was one additional question, at least one, I think, that maybe they've been answered, but I know that I was asked by a couple of board members to answer the question of the total salaries, what percent are paid to our administrative staff? And that's 3%.
Mm-hmm.
3%.
3% of the total amount paid for salaries go to administrative staff.
Thank you.
3.13 to be exact.
I think it also might be interesting to know that most people don't understand what we're talking about when we talk about salary turnover, because what happens when someone retires, you hire somebody at a lower pay, so therefore you have big savings there.
Any other questions? We've had a motion and a second. We've had discussion. I entertain a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, saying the budget passed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
6.2. On January the 23rd, 2019, the retirement plan and other post-employment benefits plan trustees met and are presenting the following trustees change for ratification. Kim Makiga, community member representative, to be appointed to a 3-year term. Under superintendent's recommendation, is there a motion that the board accept the above trustee recommendation to the retirement plan and other post-employment benefits plan trust?
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion.
And I need to recuse myself from this vote for personal reasons.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just have a quick bio if you'd like to hear it. Sure.
Go ahead.
Ms. Begecki is an advisor and partner for Strat Wealth, which is a financial planning firm here in Salisbury. She's a member of the Financial Planning Association and serves on the Advisory Council for Salisbury University's Department of Economics and Finance and on the Executive Committee of Shore Leadership. She also volunteers for Junior Achievement, and we're pleased that she's willing to volunteer time, and we think she would make a great asset, and I'm available for any questions you may have about her position.
Any questions? Okay. Nikki, did you get Mr. Malone? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, saying. Thank you. .3. Upon the recommendation of Superintendent and the School Building Commission, is there a motion to accept the final feasibility study for Mordella Middle and High School project as reviewed and discussed at the March 5th, 2019 board work session, and to authorize the submission of the documents to the state for final approval?
So moved.
I got a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Hi, Matt.
Good evening, Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, Board. Thank you for having us again. As you just mentioned, last week we came with the full study. I'll just start off with, I think there was a resounding yay to option 3. 58% of the community came out in recommendation of that. As you mentioned, the School Building Commission recommended option 3, as well as the superintendent and the community, most importantly, and our consultant. So what have we heard? There's a strong desire for this school to stay in the community. Option 3 allows this school to stay on the current site, which I think is very, very important to that community. Looking at the design, the renovated and expanded school provide many spaces that the current school is unable to provide currently. I'm just going to go over a few of those. It's definitely not the exhaustive list, but just to hit a few of the highlights. As a school system, we must be dedicated to meeting the needs of each student, from the most gifted to the most challenged. With that, dedicated spaces will be provided for the various special need programs, such as reading intervention, special education, etc. All classrooms currently located in the portables will now be brought within the school, so we will no longer have portables at the school, thus enhancing community safety. Adequate teacher workrooms will be provided. The media center will be properly sized for the school. And we've recently heard a request that there's a potential partnership with the Wicomico County Public Library, so once we get the design phase, we'll definitely look into that partnership. The new classroom design will allow for flexibility. Conscious efforts will be undertaken to separate the middle and high school. The current design does not really allow for that. Moving forward, we'll do our best, knowing that there will most certainly be overlap, but we'll do our best to mitigate that. We'll also provide common spaces where the different age groups can basically hang out. So there'll be a middle school common area and a high school common area. A new auxiliary gym will be provided to help alleviate the strain on the cafetorium. As you all know, that's a lot happening in there. There was a wrestling practice before our last community presentation. And also in the in the cafetorium, we're going to do our best to enhance the acoustical output of that space, because we know the theater program and the music programs at that school are very much important to that school. The nurse's suite will be designed to meet the current standards. Obviously, the secure vestibule will be upgraded this summer. Potentially with a new design, it will be enhanced even further. And lastly, on the site, the vehicular access will be enhanced. We'll separate the buses from the cars. Right now, it's a concern with students driving, obviously, with buses entering and teachers trying to leave. In the current capital plan, we have over $8 million worth of systemic issues at the school. So if we don't address this school, we still have all these issues that need to be taken care of. And even if we would go in there and just address the systemic problems, we obviously are not addressing all of the instructional problems. So again, option 3 allows us to meet both sides of the spectrum. So with that, tonight we're asking for the board to approve the feasibility study as submitted, and as well as allow us to proceed with option 3, which is a major renovation and a major addition. And if approved, we will submit to the state probably tomorrow and wait for their approval. Any questions?
Hearing none. We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, saying. Matt, you have your walking orders now.
Thank you. And
Thank
as a
you.
Junior Achievement Board member, I would like to thank everybody who showed up today. It was an awesome time, and it was just an overall great event, so thanks. And I'll stay up here with Lisa.
6.4. Is there a motion to authorize the issuance of contract amendment to the firm of Delmarva Veteran Builders, LLC, to incorporate the guaranteed maximum price, GMP, into the contract for the Pinehurst Elementary Space Conversion Project as recommended by the Superintendent and the School Building Commission. Amendment number 1 in the amount of $1,259,016 for a GMP base bid. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Hanlon, Mr. Fitzgerald, and board members. Tonight we are seeking board approval of the guaranteed maximum price for the Pinehurst Space Conversion Project. This was reviewed in detail with the School Building Commission at their February 28th meeting. This project will include a new front office, including instructional support space, as well as a secure vestibule that will also be handicap accessible. Contractors will be mobilizing as early as next week. We've been working in close collaboration with Mr. Kevin Smith and his administrative team, and they will be rolling out various community communications, and the staff is already aware. Although an aggressive schedule, if all goes well and the uncovering of any unforeseen conditions is limited, we are cautiously optimistic that this entrance will be ready for school use by the time the students return in September. We are pleased to report that over 75% of this scope of work will be done by local Eastern Shore contractors, including some subcontractors who, although new to Wicomico County Public Schools, the construction manager has had positive prior project experience with. Are there any questions regarding this recommendation?
Mr. Malone wants to know about the therapy tank.
Well, my question was
not there.
It's not there anymore, yeah.
Yeah, there's one there now? I mean, I didn't
No,
know.
it was filled in several years ago.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand about this.
Sure.
It's a concrete slab now.
Yes. Why are you laughing at me?
We're just picking on Mr. Malone. We've had a motion, and we've had a second. We've had all the discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, saying thank you.
Thank you.
You're just going to sit right there again, aren't you?
Yep.
You don't want to leave.
This is a long read here. Hope the voice makes it. Per the superintendent's recommendation, there's a motion to accept the proposal, Exhibit 1, from the firm of White & Turner Contracting Company for construction management at-risk services for pre-construction and construction phases of the work for the replacement Beaver Run project, and authorize issuance of a contract consistent with the terms set forth in the RFP. The final contract shall be in a form acceptable to the superintendent and board's legal counsel and include all contract documents, general conditions, and supplementary conditions of the contract, as well as the final agreement upon negotiated terms of the contract. Request is also made to authorize issuance of the notice to proceed, NTP, to the CM firm to begin work on the pre-construction phase of the contract. Note, the final contract shall be subject to all approvals of the IAC and may be required. Is there a motion to accept the proposal and authorize the work to, as indicated?
So moved.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Good evening again, Dr.
Welcome
Hanlon, Mr. Fitzgerald, and board members. Based upon previous presentations and scope of work approval up through design development by the School Building Commission as well as the board, we have been proceeding with a replacement school for the Beaver Run area. In front of you is the final negotiated agreement with the top-ranked construction management at-risk firm. Per board policy, a two-step selection process was utilized in consultation with the Interagency Commission on Public School Construction. The construction manager selection committee made a recommendation of a top-ranked firm to the superintendent and was subsequently approved. This project includes a replacement school being built on an occupied school site and includes the demolition of the existing school. Tonight's approval will allow the CMR firm to begin pre-construction efforts in preparation of bidding subcontracts and establish a guaranteed maximum price this fall, dependent upon status of state and local CIP recommendations. Are there any questions regarding this recommendation?
Lisa, could you just briefly explain the advantages of what you're doing by having this school designed to be built behind the present school that's there?
Sure. One of the main advantages is savings as far as swing space is concerned. The children are able to stay within their existing school, so we don't have to bring additional modular buildings or portables there. Once the new building comes online, the students will be able to transition into their new building.
Any other question? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Again, saying thank you.
Thank you.
You want to start for the next one?
What is it?
I'm messing
What are we
with you.
talking about?
I'm messing with you. 6.6 personnel matters. It's for information only. 7.1 board members report. And I'm going to let you go first because Mr. Palmer goes first a lot.
I've been very busy, Mr. Fitzgerald, for the last month, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I attended the Prince Street School Celebration. I attended the awards and recognition night for students and Wicomico County school employees at Bennett High School Auditorium. Last Saturday, I went over to Salisbury Middle, along with probably 1,000 of my closest friends, and for the Destination Imagination Regional Tournament. I had a really good time walking around, or rolling around with my walker, either way, and talking, kind of add a little bit of humor to it, talking to the presenters, talking to the parents, and all of the volunteers. This is what really impressed me, was all of the volunteers that were there, parents, retired teachers, and just loving every minute of it. So it was quite interesting. This morning, I attended the ribbon cutting for the junior achievement. And what a good job Jamie Hayes did. I've worked on large projects, and I can't imagine the time and effort, not only with her staff, but working with the countless members of the community and all of the different businesses and other people who were there presenting. What a wonderful project this is for our community, and she has even greater expectations for next year. Also, I usually give a plug for the CTE Garden Center, and Mr. Kelly informed me yesterday he still has his honey for sale, and plants will be available in about 2.5 weeks. So please look at the board outside of Parkside High School. He will have vegetable, herb, and flower plants in about 2.5 weeks.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, a couple of things. I also attended the awards program at James and Bennett, and it was really refreshing and rewarding to see the expression on not only the individual students who were getting the awards as well as the staff members, but to see the smiles on the faces of the parents and guardians of those individual students. And as they walked across the stage, you could see how happy they were to receive that. And really, it just goes to show what Dr. Hamlin's staff, along with you folks, are doing to hire the best possible teachers and best possible administrators to run our schools. And you can see what they're doing as a result of the students as they win awards and things of that nature. Second thing, I was riding by Y High last week, and I happened to see Y Middle, and I happened to see all the fire engines and the commotion there. And of course, being on the board, I was wondering what was happening. And so I knew it was either one or two things. Either they were having a practice drill or it was a real McCoy. So I didn't know which. But upon finding out that it was a real McCoy, that there was actually a bomb threat that was being called in. But it was good to see how well things were going. The students were moving from Y Middle to the church, and I give Mr. Hughes a big kudos because he had the bus drivers there to transport the kids back over to Y High, and I have to give Y High big kudos because they actually took those kids in and took care of them, even provided them for lunch. And again, Mr. Hughes and his group got them back to Y Middle in time to get home from school. So it really works well, and it just goes to show what practice does when you need those kinds of things. You hope you never have to have them, but when you do, you want to know that you're prepared and everyone involved knows exactly what to do. So it wasn't the chaos that it could have been because everybody knew what they were supposed to do. And the last thing I want to mention is that I appreciate, again, all the student reports because, you know, it's amazing how so much is going on in each one of the schools, and they're different things in different schools, but they're all rewarding experiences for our kids, and it shows that we have a number of students in the school system who are doing extraordinary things. And I have to say this, it's almost it's really despairing to know that the biggest report we got out of what the school was doing was the bomb threat. You know, we had no media coverage of the awards, no media coverage of the students when they were receiving their awards, or even this when they come to give their reports. But it's kind of sad that the world really wants to hear bad news rather than the good things that are happening in the school system.
Mr. Palmer.
Well, having just returned from the Bahamas, I'd like to report that the water was clear, the temperature was warm, and the company was exceptional, and I recommend everybody take a week and go down there. That's my report.
Everybody listen to this.
I don't think anyone can top that one.
Mr. Murray.
Well, I have to follow someone that's traveled here recently, and I've been back here, and I don't like to repeat some of the things with my fellow board members, but I did also attend the Bennett Awards and installation, which is a wonderful time to see our students achieve high goals and things that has been instilled by the staff of the county and their parents, and hopefully to the community. I was also asked to be the guest speaker at Westside Intermediate as they installed their honor society, which was a great pleasure for me to be over there and be a part of their induction into that honor society over there. I talked about things about being characteristic role models and lead roles and things for their peers as they go on even to middle school. I've been reading, which I enjoy reading a lot, and particularly with Dr. Seuss celebrating this past week, which is one of my favorites. I had read at Pittsfield, The Green Eggs and Ham, to second graders, and at Fruitland Primary, third graders, and it was The Cat in the Hat. And I got to go back for a minute because when I was speaking at Westside, I try to pull Dr. Seuss into any aspect I can. And one of the books that I took some things from to share with the students is Oh, the Places You Will Go by Dr. Seuss. Also, I attended and love it every year, the Bennett, the rock and roll jazz performance, which is excellent. The talent that our students have in this county is amazing. It's just amazing. I also was very fortunate enough to attend the program over at Prince Street and their homes, as we heard earlier tonight with the two young students from there that led us in the pledge. What an outstanding program. And I shared with Dr. Hanlon, you could feel in the air of the staff the jointness, the togetherness, the teamwork, as well as the students. It was an exceptional program, and I only hope to see that program expand more in our elementary schools. I really do. And in closing, I was over at the Junior Achievement as well today. So impressed with how our community, our businesses were reaching out to our students. And also, I want to compliment our students' behavior was superb. And I stayed through to the end of the day where they were announcing to get on the buses and all. Amazing, amazing how well organized, but how the students followed directions right to the T. And that's my report.
So you didn't drive the bus?
I did not drive the bus.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. So I traveled in many of the same places as my colleagues. The awards presentation at JMB, which is always gratifying to see all the award winners. Like Mr. Brown, I would love to see it on TV and in the newspaper and the media, so maybe we'll get that. I went to Annapolis in February with Dr. Hanlon to hear from our legislators, got to speak with many of them. It was gratifying to hear all the very passionate support for education, which is a very good thing for us to hear. Was at Prince Street as well. That was a very impressive program. The most impressive part, besides the shields and the houses, was being able to herd 700 students into the area without any issues at all. I mean, that's just a major event to watch that, but it was very gratifying to see that. I also read The Cat in the Hat, like Mr. Murray, to a first grade class at Fruitland Primary, which is always fun to interact with students. And then today I was at the JA Inspire, and that was also our company had a booth. So I was interviewed by many of our 8th grade students, and it is amazing the questions they ask, because many of them went off script that was in their booklet, and they ask you a lot of questions. One of the questions was they got through what they asked me, and so how's the pay in banking? Well, that's a fair question. So it was very interesting to interact with the students. So the JA Inspire is a great time, and it really our students showed themselves well, as everyone has already said, as well as the support from the community, because it was overwhelming. So people in the community are very supportive of education, and it showed today. Thank you.
Thank you. I would have loved to have been there with you this morning, but I was on a ball field getting ready for a game tonight. I was out of town on Thursday. I was going to Hatteras, and I get a phone call about what was going on in Wicomico. And when I got back, I read the emails and talked to some people, and it's gratifying to me, with the deputy standing up there, with the city police, with the fire department, with everybody coming together and doing what they've been trained to do. To me, it shows that we don't like to go through this, but we know, hopefully we're prepared. And working together, I've said it all along, this community has got to work together for the students of this county. So what happened last Thursday, I wasn't here, but I was so proud of the way things came about. I hope we never have to do it again. But kudos go out to all of you, the staff and everybody, that how good a job we can do. Before I close, I want to congratulate Micah on his new position with the board. It was funny, I was having a conversation with him tonight. He missed his son's baseball game, and he was pitching. And I gave him a little, don't do that, be there. Not knowing that you were going to be promoted tonight. So hopefully now you'll be able to go to these games. But again, as we hear, there's so much good going on in our school system. Do we still have problems? Yes. But again, I said it last month, I'm going to say it again this month. I am not going to let them drag us down. We're going to beat the knuckleheads that are causing the problem. And we're going to survive, and these kids are going to get the best we can give them. Thank you. Good night.
You're 5 minutes overtime.
That's all right.